Hello, I'm Linda Ann, video creator for ColourArte at ColourArte.com. Today I'm going to work with this piece of glass that I found at the Restore. It's actually a piece of glass that came off of a lighting fixture, and I'll be working with the Radiant Gels dimensional paint to create a Suncatcher. True to form, this is an experiment because I've never painted with this particular paint on glass before. So we're going to try this method and see what happens. First of all, I'm going to take some little alcohol pads and I'm going to clean my glass really well on the back where I'm going to paint. This is to remove any of the human oils or little impurities on the back that might cause the paint not to adhere as well as I want it to adhere. I have plenty of these little pads, so I'm going to clean the front side as well, just to be sure that it doesn't have anything on it that I transposed to the other side. The back side is where I will be painting though, so that's the side that I'm particularly careful about cleaning. I want to be sure that you can see these little lines of etching in this, so I'm putting it on my dark calendar here so that you can see the design that's already there. I'll be trying to follow this design kind of like a color book, but I'm putting my own touch to it also. I'm beginning with Olive Vine Radiant Gels. It's been well used because it's one of them I run out of quite a bit because I use it so much. You can use this for foliage colors, trees, flowers, leaves. It's just a good all-around natural type of green. I personally am not a big fan of a true green, but this one is really pretty with a lot of different colors. So what I'm going to do is go around the beveled edge first and create a frame around the entire piece of glass. My first layer will not completely cover. I expect that. That beveled edge that you see is really on the other side. I'm painting on a flat surface on the back right now. Although you can see through it and it makes it look like this side is beveled too. But I'm using the beveled edge as a guide for how wide I want to make my little frame. And I lay on a layer of paint and then I go back and smooth it out because this is dimensional paint. It's not going to give a really smooth layer, but that's not what I'm wanting. I'm wanting a first layer so I can go back, add another one, and enrich that color. I have learned that I'm much happier with results in Radiant Gels, Twinkling H2Os, Silks Acrylic Glazes whenever I do more than one layer. The next color is Vavoom Red. It's more of a violet red than a true red. The olive vine color on the edge is already dry enough to touch, but I'm going to give it a little more drying time before I go back with the second layer, and I'm going to go right in with this Vavoom Red on some of the largest areas of the glass. I turn my work so that it's comfortable for me. I don't need to keep it straight up and down in front of me to work on it. Turn it so that you get the best brush strokes. Again, I'm using these lines that are etched on the front to give me guidelines of how to paint on the back. I'll pick this up from the dark layer so that you can see how sketchy the first layer is, but that's fine because it's the first layer. It's not the final layer. And now we're using Periwinkle. This color also shares the violet colors of the Vavoom Red, so they're going to look really nice together side by side. However, there's enough difference between them that there's a great contrast too, so I like the way these colors look side by side on this glass. The next color I chose was Guatemalan Green. And while it's not a true green, it is more of an aqua turquoise type of green. And the cool colors are going to look nice together because I'm going to put several cool colors in the rest of these little blank spaces. Again, just putting it on as smooth as I can. You're not going to get this absolutely smooth because it is a dimensional paint. But I turn to these quite often when I want something to be permanent and not move once it's dry. And Radiant Gels really dry hard. It seems like every jar of paint I open, I say it's my favorite color. But because this is one of my favorite colors, I'm using it on 4 sections of the glass instead of just 2 this time. On the Periwinkle, I used it just in 2 spaces. And the last Radiant Gel color that I chose was Green Pearls. Now all the pearl colors look white in the bottle, but once you get them down and they get dry, you're going to see the tint that they have in them, the shimmer of either green, blue, copper, whatever it is that you choose. Once I get this color painted in and get all the colors just like I like them, I'm going to start all over, same colors, and repeat the process by painting second layers. And sometimes it may even take a 3rd layer to get the coverage that I want to make. I quite often layer a different color over the base color, but I'm not going to do that on this particular project. You'll be able to judge that for yourself by picking it up and holding it up against the light to see what looks good to you. That brilliant shimmer is really showing up on the opposite side of the glass, on the front side of the glass. I'm painting on the back, and that's what I wanted. I want that shimmer to show. When I was satisfied with the number of layers that I had and the coverage that I had of paint on the glass, I placed the glass face side down with the paint side up on an old cookie sheet on some foil, and I set my oven to 200 degrees. I left this inside the oven for 45 minutes and continued to leave it in after I turned the oven off until everything was cool. A setting higher than this could cause the paint to bubble, and this was a really slow baking time, curing time to let things completely dry. I took it out of the oven, brushed on a coat of Primary Elements Clear Glaze Medium, and then repeated the curing process in the oven. While the paint was baking, I went through my stash of found objects and found this little piece out of a cookie press where you push dough through it. And this little contraption I have in my hand is a jewelry metal punch. It makes holes in thinner metal, and I'm going to use that to make holes in this for the cord or wire that I'm going to use to assemble everything. Line this up where you want it, turn the little handle, and it will punch all the way through. Simple, easy to do. I have this copper wire. It's 18 gauge, and I got it at the hardware store. And I'm going to clip off a piece of it. I'm not going to get terribly fancy with this, but I am going to make a couple of copper bales to go on this. I don't want to get too fancy because I want it to be obvious that this is made from found objects. I fumbled quite a bit with this on camera, and that's exactly the reason I fumbled with it, because I wasn't holding it close to my body. I had it out trying to keep it in focus so that you could see what I was doing. Basically, it's making a circle with some kind of an object and then wrapping the wire back around itself. I'll do the same thing on the other end and come up to meet in the middle. Did you see how I covered that wire with my hand before I cut? You don't want those little pieces that you cut off to go straying off onto the floor to get in your feet later, or to end up in your eye when it flies away. So you have to be kind of careful when you're cutting the wire, especially if it's a tiny piece off the end. I'm all finished with that bale, and it turned out pretty well, so now it's time to start assembling the rest of the Suncatcher. This was given to me. It was purchased at an auction, and it says it's super strong tie wire. It was given to me by a man that used to go to auctions quite often. He plays 8-ball pool in a neighboring town here, and when I go to play pool, he always has some little special something for me because he knows that I work with a lot of found objects. I pulled out some old buttons and decided to use those. This handle that you see on the left, I ended up discarding, deciding that it wasn't going to go with this project. And that's part of the fun of this, is just when you start assembling, you just see what works, see what doesn't work, add and discard. This tie wire was really nice and strong, but it wasn't very flexible and it was a little hard to tie. So it had its advantages and it had its disadvantages. I tied it onto the end of the bail. I tried a couple of other things. Here I'm deciding if that goes with it. It doesn't. That little spool doesn't look good. I'm going to discard it. I'm going to discard the star. And mostly I decided to go with my buttons. These buttons are from my huge collection. Some of them have been around since before my childhood. And my mom and my grandmother lived through the Depression, and so whenever they wore their clothes, they wore them until they wore them out. Then they were going to use them for rags, so they cut the buttons off and saved those buttons. I enjoyed seeing them in glass jars for many years, but now it's time to put them to use. I'm also adding that little object from the cookie press, which I painted with Guatemalan Green Radiant Gels. Can you guess where I found this next object? I found it on the top of a jar of Radiant Gels. I was ready to throw away the jar. It was empty, and I saved this and painted it on the outside. I always painted on the outside so I could see the color. And then it had the paint on the inside, so it worked perfectly. When it was all finished, I took it outdoors to photograph it, and I don't think you can really tell how shimmery it is here. That shimmer is just beautiful, but you can see the reflection of my creeping phlox, and for that reason, I really liked this picture. The reflections ended up being a double bonus. Be sure to subscribe to ColourArte's YouTube channel and to my personal YouTube channel, Linda Ann Smith. In the description box below this video, you'll find several links. Some of them are for my personal links, and some of them are for ColourArte. Be sure to subscribe to both YouTube channels and to join all the groups and check out all the pages, because you don't want to miss any of the fun, any of the bargains, or any of the challenges or the chances to show your own art. In the meantime, if you enjoyed this video, give me a thumbs up. Subscribe to the YouTube channels. Share on your social media. And tell me what you thought of this video, or ask questions in the comments below. I always try to answer each comment. Sometimes that's not possible because there's sometimes a little glitch in the system that won't let me get back to you. But be assured that I'm trying. Thanks so much for watching, and come back soon.